The thing I would say to people who don't understand what people go through when their pet dies is outside of my wife, there's not a human on this earth that sleeps next to me every single night, is there for me, good times and bad, who goes outside with me and just walks around and enjoys the world and enjoys life and smells the smells and feels the weather with me every single day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Glam Reaper podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Muldowney, aka the Glam Reaper. And on today's episode, we are talking about something that is so close to my heart. Anybody who's listened to me in the last 20 years, never mind on this podcast, knows how much I love my pets and have loved them, will love them forever, forever. I'm wearing a t-shirt today in honor of this podcast. I would like to welcome Adam of Love Baxter to the show, who is, in my mind, kind of revolutionizing this space. And unfortunately, it comes from a shitty time that he went through. We already had a sneak peek with him at a conference, but here we go. Well, let's hear from the man himself. Adam, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Love the shirt. Send me a couple. Yeah, and hey, I'm a big fan of yours and it's and never in my life thought I'd be sitting here talking about death all the time, but hey, here we are talking about death.
Now your circle includes me, includes the Glam Reaper. So you've got to. That's it. Death is your daily
I
life.
you know,
It's your
but you know what? I don't have like a cool, you're the glam reaper. What is a cool by the end of this episode, we should try to come up with some sort of nickname for me that's not super morbid about like pet loss, you know?
We do. We need to. We should ask ChatGPT whenever I have a stump of it. I don't know. I don't know why I'm thinking green. Maybe it's because of your last name. I'm like the Green Lantern.
Yeah,
He goes.
that's kind of cool already. Maybe we just keep that and move on.
Yeah. But tell us, you and I, we get on really, really well. And, we have
Yeah.
great conversations like this. And I think more people like us, need to be in these spaces having these conversations because at the end of the day, Adam, you and I we've laughed and we've cried together. And that's the beauty of death and loss, right? But tell us your story or tell us Baxter's story. And I'm going to do my best not to cry. I did even bring tissues because I just can't. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the best. You notice I don't say that in past tense. He'll be the best forever. I think that's an important distinction. I had a dog. I have a dog named Sophie. She's upstairs. She's also here on my hat. Sophie is 16 in a couple weeks. Yeah, I had her 2 years before Baxter, and, been on my own since I was a teenager, so it was tough, and, Sophie is my baby, and, I ran a dog rescue, and I got an email one day from a guy. I lived in Las Vegas, and he said, "My new puppy just won't shut the fuck up. Can you come help?" So I drove over there in June in Las Vegas, June 12th, 2012, and I go in the backyard and I see this sick little red and white Boston Terrier in a box full of pee and poop. And I had Sophie with me. And my first thought was, okay, I'm going to kill this guy. And then I looked at him and I said, I'm taking the dog. He said, "No, what do you mean? I just paid. He's a puppy. I just bought it from a breeder in Oklahoma." I said, "No, I'm not leaving without the dog." So we went back and forth. He said, $500, he's yours. I went to the bank. I came back. Here's your money. This dog was sick. He was skinny. He was covered in pee and poop. And I brought him home. And I definitely couldn't have afforded him. And I had Sophie, who I didn't consult with first, and I made it work. And for the next 12 years, Baxter spent every waking moment thanking me and the way he acted. He was my best friend. Sophie, it's funny. Sophie's like my baby still. She's 16 years old and she's like, we joke that she has a British accent. And she like when she needs something, she punches the couch or she punches the wall. But we joke that she's like, Daddy, I want a treat. She's like the girl who's like, I want a squirrel from Willy Wonka. But yeah, she's like, Daddy, give me a treat. Daddy, make me cod, make me turkey. So, you have this like baby, and then you have Baxter. And I built a big software company that I sold a couple years ago, and that was hard. And he was just there by my side, 4 a.m., stressed, up early. He was there working till midnight. The whole house would go to sleep. He wouldn't leave my side. Take the trash out. He'd lay down by the door. Like he was my best friend. And my software company, we worked with over 10,000 veterinary clinics who are our customers. And I would consider hundreds of veterinarians close friends. Um, he got sick and he goes to the best general practice vet here in Southern California. And they said, "Hey, something's not right. We're going to send you to a specialty clinic," which is like literally the Four Seasons of veterinary clinics in Laguna Beach. And I remember first time my wife and I walked in, I looked and I was like, we are so screwed because it doesn't look that nice because it's cheap. And we spent $35,000 in the final 5 months of Baxter's life, and we fought and we fought and he fought. And I think that's an important distinction. He fought hard, and no one ever said to us, he might die. He might not survive whatever this is. And it was a whirlwind. It was something's really wrong. Okay, we think it's cancer. Oh no, we did all these tests. It's not cancer. Oh wait, now we're gonna run this test. Oh, it's cancer. No, never mind. It's not cancer. And we did that for months. Spent so much money, put him through hell, and he just fought through it. And he would have good days and bad days. And on a Wednesday, our vet did blood work, and he had a couple good days. And our vet looked us in the eyes and said, "His blood work looks perfect. You beat this. We're good. You can take him home." And we celebrated, and it was the best night, and we were like, "Okay, that was really scary, holy shit, but we're good." And then he was gone Monday, and what happened in between that Wednesday and that Monday was horrific, and it was gonna be hard either way, but it was the whiplash of being told, "He's good, you beat this." Those are the words, I'm not making those words up. "His blood work looks perfect." You wouldn't say that about a puppy's blood work, and yet it was said to us in that situation about him and a sick dog. And you beat this. While I really, really appreciate that, could you imagine if you're out there watching this, if your parents or significant other was fighting cancer and the oncologist looked at you and said, "Oh, they're good. They beat this. Yeah, go home. You're good." And then they were gone a couple days later. It'd be very hard to stomach. So that made those next couple days really confusing and hard. And then he was gone. And then I did what 35 to 38,000 people in the US do every day. They go out into the world and they look for help when their pet dies, and I found 0. And that was really disheartening. So I built it, and that is my super long, sad, winded version of the start of Love Baxter.
And that's what Love Baxter is. It's your love note to Baxter, and not kind of, not that you can ever prevent what you went through from happening again, because you can't physically ever promise that to anybody, but
Yeah.
it's your best way of gathering the experts in each of their different fields in one place, so that
Yep.
at least the person doesn't have to go looking for it, which is
Yeah.
half the
Well, that's I mean, and what's crazy is there's as you know, in human death care, there are so many wonderful dots in the universe that do an amazing job.
yeah.
Where we struggled, especially in the pet world, was you had this universe, you have this organization and this person, and they're just kind of floating in space. But there was not a sun. I like to talk about Love Baxter as the sun. There wasn't a sun that just connected all the dots. And the thing I tell a lot of people is like, I'm not competing with any of these dots in space, these planets, these stars. I want them all to exist. I'm just here to help guide people to the right place. That's it. And that's what we built here. And I think it's really important. Everyone's gonna need something different. Everyone's pets are different and every person's different. I just want them to find what they need. And get some guidance along the way. The guidance that I mean, I was like spiraling for weeks. I was Googling, I'm not a religious person. I'm sitting there Googling proof of afterlife for dogs. What does the Bible say what does the Bible say about pet afterlife? I'm a non-religious Jewish person. I'm searching, what does the Bible say about pet afterlife? I mean, I was just like going through it, just like, what can I find that will make me feel better? Uh, and then I realized like there's nothing out there, so I have to go build this.
Yeah, yeah. And even when I met you, where we had a clip of and part of Baxter's story shared last year, I think it was summer last year anyway, it was at the pet conference. Even when I met you then, you could tell it was still so raw. And it's not that it's not raw now, but I think you're further into building this and you're
Yeah.
sort of seeing a bit more from the logistics side and the business side what other pet companies are going through. Do you want to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that, about what your experience is with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. In fact, we had a post on our Instagram page go crazy viral. It's still going viral while we're sitting here talking. We received over 2,500 messages, comments, and emails since yesterday, through Love Baxter, which is a lot. And that's from a business perspective, that's it costs nothing for us to go reply to these people. We make no money. But this is just human decency of being there for them and hopefully helping them understand like why, Love Baxter should be their place to find this stuff. But, the emails we receive every day are horrific. And here I am. I spent the last 10 years supporting over 10,000 veterinary clinics globally. And when a vet business signed up with us, we had a survey. Tell us about you. What's your name? What's your position? What do you do at the clinic? And like the fourth question was, what makes your clinic special? And man, I could have bet my life savings every time. The answer was always two answers. We treat your pet like family. We're there for all stages of your pet's life. That's it every time. Thousands of veterinarians, practice managers from thousands of veterinary clinics globally. This is not a US thing. It's not a Canada thing. It's not a UK thing. This was globally. Those were the two things as if that's what they were taught to say. But
Yeah.
then there's data that comes out. Eric Gardner, did this awesome, awesome report 817,000 pets that were euthanized. About half of cats and dogs saw their vet eh, or did not see their vet in the 18 months before they were passed away. Half. That's not being there for all stages of our pet's life. And every day I receive thousands of emails from people who are like, okay, went to the vet. Vet said, dog's sick. We put the dog down. They said they'll call me in 2 weeks to get their ashes. I got the ashes back. I picked them up at the front desk in a bag. I left. I never heard from them again. Well, that's not
Yeah.
really treating people like family. So, we just have this we have 70% of households in the US have a pet, and 11% of companies have pet bereavement leave. So you could have this dog, and as such is the case for so many people that message us, get a dog when they're 10, 12, and they're sitting there and they're 27 years old. And they've had this dog in their life for 15 years. They moved out of the house. They took the dog with them. This dog has been with them through everything. And the dog dies. And their boss says, see you tomorrow. Sorry, we don't have leave. If your mom died,
Yeah.
you can have 2 days off. But your dog, kiss my ass. We'll see you tomorrow. And that's insane to me as well. So, and I think from your side of things, and probably a lot of your viewers, I think I've learned a lot going down this road and meeting people like you and other experts. It's the human death side is not exactly candy cane lane either, but there's like some infrastructure built around this is what we do when a person dies. We call Jennifer, we have her help us, and we put together a beautiful event. We understand what hospice care is. We understand, burial versus cremation. We know all those things. But for pets, it's the Wild West. It is
Yeah.
unregulated.
Yeah.
No, and it's and there's no script for it. So what I'm building on Love Baxter is we're building on a script for it. It's, you
Yeah.
know, you have an 8-year-old dog, 10-year-old dog, or you get a dog, you might have a 2-year-old dog that was just diagnosed with cancer, which happens often, unfortunately, and you need a plan in place. We're gonna help you put together a plan because right now a plan doesn't exist and it's chaos and it's hell.
Yeah. And that is really what it is there is no blueprint. There's no script. There's no which way to go or showing you the options. I think actually in the human side of it, we're nearly fighting against the blueprints that we nearly became so scripted. We went from unscripted to so scripted to now we're like fighting against all this rigidity. Is that even a word? All this control and sort of, let's make up words on this podcast. But all of this sort of pressure to do things a certain way. I mean, I don't know how many times I get a family and they're like, asking me things and they're actually waiting for it's not me per se, but they're waiting for somebody to give them permission to do something or to feel something. They really just need another human being to give them that permission. Whereas in the pet space, and it's interesting because I think I said this to you, like when I very, very first started this business, I went into the human side of it, but we also had the pet side of it. And the pet side of my business has always been the quiet one. It's just sort of I've let it sort of in the background because there was never it was weird to talk about it. I remember when I did my TEDx talk,
Yeah.
that was about loss, and people were, when they realized I wasn't talking about my granny, they were like, "Oh my god," shocked. It's to talk about pet loss as an equivalent to human loss is mind blowing for some people.
Yeah.
And it is nearly more difficult. And I hate any comparisons, but I just want to preface this by saying it is a little bit, I would say, maybe not more difficult, but there's just a different, everyone experiences grief differently, but there's a difference in pet loss because you don't have a blueprint to follow. There's no funeral. There's no, like you said, you go to the vet, you have them euthanized, and you come home. There's no funeral. There's nobody knocking at your door bringing flowers or, cooked dinners, or your community doesn't rally around you because they don't even know it happened. There's no death notices. Like I could go on. There's just nothing. There's barely condolence cards.
No, I mean, and you know what's interesting? And like, I have this discussion a lot because I'm with you. I'm not here to compare Baxter's loss to your mom's loss or your dad's loss. That's not what this is here for. But the thing I would say to people who don't understand what people go through when their pet dies is, you know, outside of my wife, there's not a human on this earth that sleeps next to me every single night, is there for me, good times and bad, who goes outside with me and just walks around and enjoys the world and enjoys life and smells the smells and feels the weather with me every single day, like my dogs do, like my cat does. So, I
Yeah.
just think it's so interesting for so many of us. We have wonderful relationships with many of the humans in our lives, but after you're 18 years old, 20 years old, you move out of the house. How many days in your life do you see your grandparents ever again? Do you even see your parents ever again? And yet these animals are there 24/7. They love you
Yeah.
unconditionally, and they
Yeah.
take care of you. They never ever, with every human in your life, no matter how great your relationship is, you have a moment where you think back and say, "I can't believe you said that to me that one time. You really hurt me that one time." Your dog, your cat, your horse, your reptiles, they don't have that moment. There is no baggage. They just
Mm.
love you more than anything. They wanna be laying next to you. They don't wanna be away from you. They love you, they lick your face, they care about you more than anything. If your
Yeah.
grandma did that, you'd say, "Get away from me." So, again, this is not nothing's about a comparison. I'm just saying this from, like, from the pet side, it's a hard thing to lose a pet.
Yeah, and I was even gonna say when you said aside from your wife, I was even gonna say, and one better, I guarantee you, maybe not. I'm making a judgment call here. She doesn't come running to you at the front door, physically shaking with excitement that you're
Actually, my wife does every time. She really loves me.
licking and
Yeah, oh yeah, that's too. It's crazy. Um,
but there is this pure unconditional love and excitement. Like no human that I know of or have ever met is so excited about doing the same things every day, about leaving the house, about coming back to the house, about
yeah,
seeing the leash, about dinner, you know? I mean,
yeah.
just their unbridled excitement and positivity is just such a beautiful, I mean, we could learn so much from them. And so, yeah, when that is gone and there's a void, I mean, I still cry about Poppy and she's gone, 2 years. She was my best friend. I think that she was my soulmate, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
I it's heartbreaking. when they jump into a suitcase when you're packing up to leave and oh my gosh.
No, I mean, it was just like I was building a company for so many years. It was hard. And, Baxter had to be touching me while I was asleep. And, you know, it would be 4 in the morning. I would just barely roll over and he'd look at me like, "We're up." He would kind of like nod his head and I'd say, "Yeah." And he would like he and I spoke. And, like what
Yeah.
you were saying, we went on the same walk most days. And, I don't think I ever took them for granted when they were happening. But man, do I just miss it's like going on a,
Yeah.
90-minute walk with him. I mean, and you could just tell he would just sniff and be happy, and he would walk and he would, like, get ahead, and he would always, like, look back at me like, "We're good?" And I would say, "Yeah, man, we're good. Let's keep going." Yeah, he was just the best. He really is.
Yeah. And it's those moments, and it's an incredible thing, I think, what you're building. But I just want to touch on a little bit as well the business aspect of it,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you have been quite surprised as well about, and this happens both in human and the pet side of it, but you've been surprised about how many people are doing this for the love of doing it, not financial gain.
Oh my
Because
god.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that is a reality. A lot of people out there, I just want to preface this. So people who listen to this are both funeral professionals in the death space, and then there's general, I call them like me's before I kind of got into this. So I think a lot of Joe Public, as I call them, assume funeral homes are trying to take advantage of them. Vets, but they're paying up these bills. I don't think they realize the reality of the hard work and the hours that go in behind the scenes. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about
Yeah.
people making money or not in this business.
No, it's actually shocking. Now, again, I've, been in the vet space for a long time, and you meet a lot of vets. Most people don't realize, like, you think vets have to go to college for 4 years and they have to go to veterinary school. Veterinary school is insanely expensive. And then they have to go be veterinarians in the world, and you typically with hundreds of thousands of dollars of student debt. And I mean, I met so many vets that make well below $100,000 because they're not in LA or New York, wherever. And that's just a thing. And even the best, I mean, a lot of the vets I know who are like really killing it, they're like, "Oh, I'm kicking ass. I make $150,000 a year," which I'm not knocking that. It's a lot of money. But I think when we think of doctors, you're not really thinking that much money. So I get into the pet end of life space. Oh my god. It was shocking for me because I met well, I worked with in-home euthanasia vets for years. I know maybe 3 who make about 6 figures, and I know a lot who I've talked to make, 65 to 85, 90,000 a year, and they are like, "Hey, I manage my own schedule, I live my own life, this is good." I always say to them, "You should be making more." Now, this is where I think I've rubbed a couple people the wrong way in the pet end of life space, and what better forum than this one to explain my position. I believe that we should be compensated for the work we do, period,
Absolutely. Mhm.
in good times and in bad. The same way, I would never compare someone who like doing something because it has to do with death does not mean you're taking advantage of someone. If because where would the line go? Well, we can't charge people because this is for death. Okay, well, we can't charge people because this is because they're sick. Well, we can't charge people. It's like, where would it end?
Yeah.
I like living in a society where we have social workers and grief counselors and pet, crematories and vets who really specialize this and come to your house. If those people cannot afford the cost of doing business and to take care of themselves and to really take care of themselves, they should not be eating ramen every night to do these things for
Yeah.
you. If we live in a world where those people aren't compensated, then we just won't have them. And that is not a world I want to live in. I am frustrated because lovebaxter.com is a free resource. It has thousands of guides, resources, people, memorial items, everything. Go to the search bar, search for anything you want. We've had 600 searches since yesterday on lovebaxter.com. And if someone searches something that we don't have something for, we immediately go working on that content to make sure that doesn't happen again. But we have a directory with hundreds of people on it, and I've met a lot of them. They're all great, and most of them are barely making a living wage. Most of them, this is not their full-time thing. But why? don't we want to live in a world where it is a full-time thing? Now you think about all of us, and I'm going to say this and it's going to sound kind of like, some loser on CNBC saying this, but it's true. It's like you think about the money we waste on stuff. I know in my household, we waste money on a lot of stupid shit. Also, we have like 20 streaming services which keep raising the price every other month. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I would much rather if someone was helping me after Baxter died, I would much rather that person gets paid well so they can continue helping me and continue helping others. So if I have to say, God, 50 bucks, $100 for 45 minutes, what a crock. Okay, oh, cool. So if it's $25, then what? Then that person does then they're just not there. So I'm very big on people being compensated for their work. And I'm very big on, a free market where if you're really good at what you do and you can command it, you should command more money. And that's just how most of the people I meet in the end of life space have told me, like, I'm struggling. I work 2, 3 jobs. This is what I do on the side. Well, I don't know about anyone watching this. I don't want the person helping me at the end of my pet's life to also be thinking about their other job. I want them pretty focused on me, my family, my dogs, my cat. So I was talking to a pet death doula and she's awesome, and she's so great, and I said, "Your website says you give your services away for free or barter." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, explain that to me." She said, "Yeah, someone knitted me a hat." I said, "But how do you eat dinner?" She's like, "Well, I live with a family, and I take care of their family, and in trade, they do X, Y, and Z for me." And I said, that's really nice, but, like, I want you to build a business, like, I want you to be able to eat, I want you to be able to put money away and save for your future and save for retirement, it's all fine and dandy, but you don't pay your bills with knitted hats. And by the way, while we're doing this, they're painting my house outside, so you all might hear some painting. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it. You might hear a dog bark here or there, but that's okay. Nothing stops this mission. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I want people to make good money, and I don't want people to make money. I want people to make good money, and then in turn, do great
Yeah.
work.
Worth it. Yeah. Well, and that is, it's a conversation I've had across actually a few episodes on the podcast, but the death doula in the human space, it's the same thing that a lot of them offer it for free. It's voluntary. I mean, there was bigger topics we've talked about is in what exactly is a death doula and how I
Yeah,
think the market is also an issue. But um at the end of the day, people pay for what they value. And the conveniences we provide. And, so sometimes like you might get a cleaner in your house, and that is of value to you because then you get 3 hours of your time back every week, whatever it might
yeah,
be. Right. So we pay for things we value. I'm actually been trying to train funeral directors in thinking that way. Instead of trying to sell somebody a $20,000 casket that they don't value, why don't you talk to them about what they do value and you can actually access their money that way or access what they're willing to spend. Like I might have a Chanel handbag, but I might get like, I mean, actually, this is the opposite for me. That's what I say. But I might get like a Spirit Airlines. No, I'm probably going to do the Delta Airlines and have like a JC Penney handbag.
yeah, but,
But
I mean, I know what you're saying. Look, I don't consider myself like a materialistic person, but I have nice wallets and bags. I have a nice watch. I mean, I believe in I really like companies and I really like products that build with intention. Some of my one of my favorite my wife's birthday was over the weekend. I got her a pair of Jacques Marie Maj sunglasses. And these sunglasses are like 1,200 bucks. They're beautiful. They're hand built. Every detail is perfect. They're built in Japan. They give you this amazing box, this amazing certificate that comes with them. I have a pair as well. I mean, I like stuff like that. And I would much rather pay a funeral director a little bit more money who is going to be really, really, really intentional about every conversation. And if you want to sell me a $20,000 casket, then be ready to talk to me about the value of that casket and what makes it so great. And if not, like you said, you want more access to money, then sell the other services. And, you can either be like every other funeral director, or every other doula, or every other grief counselor, or you can say, this is how I do things differently. And I'll tell you all, we have a directory on lovebaxter.com. It's free to join. Lovebaxter.com/join. And grief counselors, veterinarians, pet cremation facilities, photographers who specialize in end of life photography, um, they're all on there. And the biggest feedback I give them is that their about sections are not ever great and they're not really complete. And a lot of the feedback I get from our readers is like they sit there and in their entire bio it is, this is me. This is why I'm great. This is where I went to school. This is how long I've been doing this. This is me, 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 me. And you know what they never say? Hey, you reading it, your dog died. The dog you love more than life itself died. And here's how I can help you. And here's what you'll get. And this is what we're doing for you. It's me, 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 me. And like that, I think, is where the death industry is failing. Is the death industry is like, no, 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 we got to sell. So I'm going to tell you about me and how great I am, and they never stop and say, "Tell us about your mom. Tell us
Yeah.
about your dog. Tell us about your cat. Hey, forget me for a second. I wanna just sit down and talk to me about you. What would your mom want? What would your aunt want?" And I just think that disconnect is the biggest one I've seen in the death space.
Yeah. I literally said those exact words, recently, Black in October, at the National Funeral Directors Association at a panel where I was like, we've got to take out the rhetoric of it being a sales call or a sales anything. It is conversation between two human beings. And if I was to sit here and ask you no questions about yourself, Adam, this would be a very boring podcast, and say this is a conversation. We are having a two-way conversation,
Yeah.
and that's what it should be. And that's what it should be for pet loss and human loss. It's a conversation. You've got somebody who's going through the worst time of their life, and we are supposed to be here to facilitate it. It
Yeah.
drives me nuts. But it is very interesting because I do think people will pay for what they value, but I think in the pet space, I think the trouble is that we have this expectation, because you touched on streaming services, right? And that they keep going up. I pay for
Yeah.
too many streaming services, but I don't want to cancel one in case a movie I really like comes out or whatever.
Really,
Like,
and we're the same.
value them, right? It's so annoying. But even just there, before you, before the last one before you, I went and I paid $7 for a ridiculously oversweet coffee because I wanted the sweetener. I wanted whatever was in it. I know you love your matches, right? Like, so
Right.
we overpay for these things. So why is it when it comes to this space? And I personally think it's because the people working in it are like, well, this is all people are willing to pay. And they've already sort of accepted the boo-hoo. I don't want to be like, but the boo-hoo, this,
No, no, you're right. Yeah, they're afraid to have conversations about money in veterinary medicine because they've been yelled at.
yeah. And then the people, they don't value themselves. So if they don't value themselves, how the hell do you expect me as the pet loss person to value you? But then also the people who have lost the dogs or lost the cats or whatever it might be, we also don't necessarily know to pay these because it hasn't been standardized. Like, even when I go into funeral homes talking about my celebrant work, and I have been called, which makes me laugh, a high end celebrant. It's like a high end hooker. I'm like, okay, well, I'll take it.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say that, but okay.
I'm like, "What? Okay." I'd rather be that and value myself and value my team and value my services and the training that I give them than be like, "Oh yeah, we'll take it for $300." And I think that's where the disconnect is in pet loss. We have paid so little for so long that now, yeah, if I go to a pet loss person and they're like, "Well, I'm going to charge you, I don't know, whatever, $1,000 to do X,"
Yeah.
I might be like, "Mother of God, that's insane." So we have to change the rhetoric.
Well, I have a couple thoughts on that. So go back. So like, let's talk about like the way the pet world's different than human is, humans, like my wife just had to get her foot x-rayed. And we have insurance, saw her doctor, got her foot x-rayed, saw her doctor again. It's $55 out of pocket. And we're so used to that for ourselves. For pets, if you have a young pet and you have insurance, it's still expensive and you're still paying a lot more than 55 bucks. But for people that, for people that don't have insurance, or you haven't, like my dog upstairs will be 16 in a couple weeks, and any day could be her last, even though she's doing well. And but there's at this point there's no insurance. Her insurance would be $1,000 a month, and she costs 12 to $1,500 a month. When it's time to say goodbye, you're coming out of pocket, and God forbid your pet was fighting cancer or something bad. It's like Baxter was $35,000. And then by the time they're like, all right, we're gonna, come do in-home euthanasia and do cremation, it's another $1,000. You kind of laugh, you're like, whatever at this point, but I mean, it's just different than, with humans because for a lot of pet stuff, you're paying out of pocket. But I'm with you that, I think we spend our pets' whole lives buying them treats, buying them toys, buying them fancy leashes and bowls, buying them special food, making sure they go to the vet, doing all these things, supplements, it doesn't end. It's expensive. And then they die, and then you have all these people are like, "I'll just do it for free. I'm afraid of you." I'm like, no, how about you put your a different foot forward and you say, "Hey, I've helped hundreds of families who are dealing with loss, and this is how I'm gonna help you. And we're gonna meet 6 times. It's gonna be $100 each time. For $600, this is how I'm gonna change your life and help you process and get through this." The number one search term, and I just pulled it up because I was looking at it. We've had over 600 searches since yesterday on lovebaxter.com. The number one topic people are searching right now is about children, helping children. So, why if your kids were dealing with the traumatic loss of a pet, uh, why would you want the cheap version of that? When I was running my software company, we weren't the cheapest, but we were the best. And we definitely weren't the most expensive. I felt like we were, in terms of being the best, we were 10 out of 10. In terms of cost, we were like 7 out of 10. It's pretty good. And I would get vets and they would email me and they would say, "Hey, I think we're going to leave." I'd say, "Why? You've been here 3 years." They said, "Yeah, this company just emailed me. They said they're going to give me 6 months free. And I love you, man, but like we can't beat free." And I would call them and I'd say, "What is wrong with you? F You can't be free?" I said, "So what if I called you? You were my vet." And I said, "Hey, someone just told me they're gonna do Baxter surgery for free. Like, would that be smart? Or would you think to yourself, that shouldn't be a free thing. Maybe you shouldn't trust that." If someone walked up to you on the street and was like, "Here, have dinner. It's free. I'm gonna hand you this bag of food." You'd be like, "Yeah, I'm not eating that, freak." But it's just so funny. But we're supposed to think that the cheapest, freest, best, versions of things are supposed to be the best. There's no way. So, I would rather find someone who's gonna truly help. And again, this isn't a, "Hey, don't have avocado toast and you'll be able to afford a house, you little millennial weirdo." It's not that, but it's like, think about what's important to you. Think about what you do spend money on. We all spend money on stuff. I'm sitting here as a Dodger fan with a signed Yoshinobu Yamamoto baseball, my hero from game 6 and game 7. I loved him. I've never been so inspired by anything done in sports in my life. And I have this very expensive baseball on my desk. Now, to a lot of people, they think this is stupid. I agree. It probably is stupid. It was very expensive. But I look at this and I think about what he did in game 7 of the 2025 World Series, something I'd never seen in my life ever. I've never seen anything like I've never seen an athlete just say, "I will die before I lose." And he did that. And it inspired me so much. I have this on my desk. And you know what? It's meaningful to me. So obviously not everything's important to everyone, but I just when your pet dies, it's an important especially if it's a Poppy, if it's a Baxter, do it right. Don't do it cheapest.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And you know what? That's a great way to end, I think, the episode. I mean, Adam, listen, everyone out there will watch this space. I know I will for sure. I'm very invested in this. And yeah, just, everyone check out Love Baxter and you at least respect the story. If there's any pet loss, if there's any pet people out there, they're going to resonate with the story 150 million percent. So contact Adam if you've got any questions or, whether it's about the website or just in general.
Yeah, I'm LinkedIn. You can find me Adam Greenbaum, lovebaxter.com. We're here. So I'd love to chat. I'm still learning about the death space and I'm very interested in it. I think it could use a lot of work on human and pet side.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us.